Hi Azmyl, welcome to the Fairly Current Show.
Morning.
We want to tap into your knowledge of media. We wanted to ask you now, in the last year and a half, lebih kurang, nearly 2 years actually, the perception of civil society, politics, has been shaped somewhat or has been misshaped by media. From where you stand, as a lecturer, as a professor, as a musician, somebody involved in the arts, how do you think media has changed, fluctuated, the way they tell their stories since the last general elections?
Well, I think a lot has changed, and we also have to account the fact that transition between Pak Lah and current PM Najib, kan? That leading up to that change, that shift, there was a lot of, I think, PR going on, public relations going on.
Oh, not Pakatan.
Public relations going on, because, and also the fact that it's no secret, no big secret that ownership and control of the media, is links to the mainstream coalition political parties, and the fact that media. I mean, if you look at media theories, media is seen as a fourth estate. I think in Malaysia, the media has sort of lost its credibility among the population, and especially the younger generation, 30 and below.
Why do you think this is happening?
I could just speculate the fact that I think this is a generation who grew up in an era of pessimism. I mean, they're very cynical. I mean, just hear the sort of observations they make about things, I think. But on the other hand, you got, materialism, consumerism, these things coming up as an alternative to disengagement. You can't help. These children growing up being exposed to the national media, and basically just seeing it as faces for the political parties to advertise themselves.
Because you talk about media, of course, you're referring to really physical print media, right? And really in the lead up to the last general elections, there was also the proliferation of independent, alternative online media. How do you think their presence with websites such as Natgraph, Malaysian Insider, and of course Malaysia Kini, who's been doing that for 10 years, how do you think the presence of these online sites has affected the gameplay and content making of traditional media?
Okay, I think this is overall trend. I think with media and the new media technologies coming up, and of course this translates directly to the notion of communication, and what sort of ideas get disseminated and how, and all forms of media industries that existed before the internet came about are now struggling to find a model to survive, and of course in this sense, mainstream media is one of those major ones, and the internet has really democratized, I think, voices, dissenting voices, marginalized voices, oppositional voices, have finally found a platform that that can't be, it can't be ignored.
Can you talk a little bit about plans by the Najib administration to increase broadband penetration and broadband usage by about 50% of Malaysian population, and how this would, in your point of view, affect the way we consume media, and how maybe start with that first.
Okay. Well, coverage is fine, but I think we should work on the speed first, man. The internet connection, the whole Malaysia could be sort of connected, but then the speed is really slow. I think what we have here, but at the same time, penetration is one thing. Just statistics you look from the telcos, but how about do schools get access to internet?
Because a lot of people argue, for example, that you have these websites referring to media and the kind of content that alternative media makes compared to, say, like a Malay vernacular broadsheet like Utusan. The more so-called balanced view of online media doesn't necessarily get translated to bila kita fikir pasal orang grassroots ataupun dekat the so-called heartland.
Okay.
So do you think that some of this then can reach out to that, and so how do you think this will play out?
Again, I think a lot of the lead up to the last general election was also word of mouth. I think younger children or grandchildren of the older generation, they were telling their parents what's happening, and probably showing them this website, find out about new information. And so, in that sense, it's not just the medium that actually changes. We have to forget. We forget that it's the people involved. People who read, they can tell people. They go to have tea with a friend. They talk about it. They drive in a car. They talk on the phone. They meet their parents. So these are the levels which you don't really see a certain. I mean, you can get statistics on that.
Multiplier effects.
Yeah, the multiplier effect. I think that's more. That's stronger in that sense because. But at the same time, I think we also have to consider the fact that while the internet, online, newspapers gives sort of alternative views, also there's also the tendency of it to also be probably very editorialized or very, very subjective. So in that sense, I think that the new media audience will have to be more savvy to read between the lines, to sort of look at the general picture of a certain news and make a judgment or a value call on the news.
I just want your opinion because after especially I think after March 8 of 2008, there seemed to be a growing a cacophony of the kind of story angles that we see, especially in print media. For example, you have what you call the vernaculars, who are telling completely different stories from what another newspaper would tell. We're talking about utusan and the kind of tangent that they go off on, and of course like the Star and the kind of business angle. What is your opinion on this? Do you think that it's becoming worse? Do you think it's becoming a problem? Should we be aware of this?
Okay, I think the vernacular press can also sort of divide communities even further because certain news is reported of more importance to particular ethnic community than the rest. So that one becomes maybe the headline one paper and another doesn't. But there's also the sense of course, the news being editorialized again, let's say Utusan compared to the Star. So I mean, again, we're looking at same media ownership. Ownership is almost similar. I mean, it's coming from the same component parties. But in that sense, having that control, you can even divide communities further by emphasizing certain news or certain communities further.
So it sounds like this would play against the idea of the Najib administration's One Malaysia.
Yeah, I think in that sense, because even he might have certain ideas, but I think, is it something that the entire, people surrounding him agree with that? It seems to me very fragmented,
Talking about fragments and really after March 8 there was a sense of it's a new dawn of Malaysia. I just wanted to quickly tap into something that you're doing right now that you are involved in that kind of touches on this issue as well as others. Can you tell us a little bit more about this project?
This project called Wayang Fajar. Well, it's looking at, I think, different ways of this Wayang Fajar specifically looks using the medium of visual and light and to sort of display multiplicities of ideas about new dawns, I think. And dawn as a metaphor is always very interesting. People always use it. They use the word political tsunami, but I think that because that word is very relevant in popular memory. But I think dawns have always been used to describe a certain new beginning, certain excitement. But of course, dawns happen in a very long distance of a horizon. So I think when you get excited, it needs to be sort of measured and sort of worked out.
So last question. Now that we are kind of in between general elections, so the dawn has passed. Now it's kind of been like noon, right? Noon time between like 2 years already. So how do you think the day has been so far for Malaysia?
It's been exciting. Excitement has a bit of both elements, negative, positive, good and bad, whatever you call it. And again, I think this is just entire part and parcel of change. Change means that something is beneath is always moving and the top will always be sort of rattling. And I think Malaysians, if you really want change, then you've got to sort of face this reality. Other than that, you could probably, take comfort in your Astro or go shopping. But I think that's the sort of cultural, sort of a postmodern sense of cultural experience we have in Malaysia. Because on one hand, we've got this really rapid economic growth, which leads to materialism. But at the same time, that could disengage people from real actual action. But at the same time, now people starting to realize that after the election that, wow, my vote counts. So, so maybe I could do something. I'll do something politically engaging, and then I'll do my shopping. I don't know, to be along that line. Yeah.
Thanks, Azmyl.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Yeah.
coming on the show.
Thanks, man.